Great to see everyone on a snowy. Reminds me of growing up in the Adirondacks. I was telling someone earlier that my mom is expecting something in the neighborhood of 20 below. That helps ground me for what comes up around zero. So it should be just a walk in the park here over the next couple of days overall. Thank you as always. It's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on in Penfield. And one of the things that I want to concentrate on is not to take Jim Costello's presentation that he does typically in October or November and to just recant that, but to kind of give everyone a little bit of an update as to what's going on. So let's get started. What's the current talk of the town? Current talk of the town is Shadow Lake and Shadow Pines. So let me kind of give you a snapshot of where we are and where we're going with that. So earlier in the year, we found out that Shadow Pines, Shadow Lake, and Greystone were going to go on the market. And Jim Costello and myself and our town engineer, Mark Valentine, met with the Dolomite Group to get it right from the horse's mouth. And they indicated that, in fact, they've got all of the properties up for sale. They're looking to bundle Shadow Lake and Greystone to continue as golf, and that Shadow Pines would be up for potentially residential development. So as you can imagine, that created a lot of concern by our town board and a lot of concern by those residents that live on the golf course or golf courses, and a lot of residents within the town, thinking about 211 acres and what could go in there. 200 acres could support, after you extract roadways and E-pods, environmentally sensitive areas, ponds, things like that, could yield anywhere from 200 to as many as 290 homes, I think is what we have heard. And so one of the things that the town board wanted to do was to kind of slow that down a little bit. And so hence we've started this process with a moratorium. And so what a moratorium is really it's a timeout. It's an opportunity to say, okay, for the next 6 to 12 months, we're not going to entertain any building on any of those sites. It's going to give us an opportunity to put in place a local law, to form a local committee, and to start to vet out what are some of those uses that could or should go in there. And there's a lot of concern, not only from the town, but we've got a school board member here. What is the impact on the schools? What is the impact on the storm and sanitary sewers? What is the impact on the transportation infrastructure? So this opportunity for a moratorium is to get a chance to talk about what could go on next there. Could it be residential? Could it be some residential, and could it be some recreation? Could it continue as a golf course? So that's the item that our board is going to continue to work through. So what happens is that we established a resolution setting a public hearing for March 2nd. March 2nd, anyone will be able to come in and speak for or against the moratorium. After that point, we'll establish a committee. And to date, I think we've received 65 requests from individuals to be on that committee. Obviously, we won't be able to have that many to make that a functional group, but we'll select a nice cross-section from there. We'll go through, we'll charge them to come up with some recommendations to the town board, and then the town board will have to take some action. So that's kind of a snapshot as to where we are. If you have an interest to be part of that committee, I would welcome an email, supervisor@penfield.org, and we'll put you on that list. And as we develop that list, we'll get back to everyone that has submitted their interest to say, yes, you're on, or no, you're not. And again, there could be a number of subcommittees as well, so we're going to try to get as many people involved as we practically can. I think the parting comment would be certainly to follow Penfield.org for the most up-to-date information. There are a number of websites out there. Some of them get it more right than others. But if you want an accurate update as to what's going on with this project or anything else that's going on in the town, please log on at Penfield.org. Upper left-hand corner, quick links, click on the shadows, and that will take you to all the documents that we have online for the project. It'll also include a Q&A for the project as well. So just to give you a quick idea, this is the quarry. In fact, I think I've got a little thing. Thank you, Dave. Dave Renner. This is the quarry. This is Shadow Lake, and then this is Shadow Pines down here. And so that's what the footprint looks like today. The moratorium takes into account all of Shadow Pines and all of Shadow Lake. So at least during the moratorium, nothing will happen on those properties other than current uses. So let's talk a little bit about some of the news from our business development services, and I'd like to take a minute. Everyone knows Jim Costello, and Jim and I have had an opportunity to work together for more than 32 or 33 years in different capacities, and as everyone knows, Jim is a great asset. And then also Mark Valentine from our engineering and planning department. So an update on Walmart. Walmart is looking to open their doors in August. Once they've opened up their doors and they kind of close down the current operation, they're going to take that current Walmart and either have one use or look to break it up into multiple uses. And they want to do that relatively quick. They don't want that to sit empty for any period of time. So in speaking with the DeMarco Group, they have a number of different ideas, nothing that they're willing to share at this time other than it would be to complement the Walmart store. So when I hear that, I think of things like Sam's Club, but don't say, geez, I heard from the supervisor that Sam's Club is going in there. But that's one of the things that I start to think about. Napa Wood Fire Pizza in the Street of Shops has opened up, and some rave reviews there. So they're looking to really fill up that Street of Shops that they developed about a year and a half ago. The Oak and Apple Cidery on Sweets Corners and Dublin Road, that came in town for a sketch plan review. That's formally before the planning board coming up in March. And there is some mixed reviews on that. Some folks see that as a welcome to that area. There's been a number of folks that have indicated that they don't feel that's the right fit because they're viewing it as a bar, a brewery, and so there's some concerns, and I'm sure that's going to be an interesting conversation before the planning board as that moves through. Bayview Landing, we just had that come in right across from South Point Apartments on Empire Boulevard, down around where the Agway is, up on what is the old Wilbur Track Road, looking to put in 33 townhomes. These are 33 for again off over the years, but the current owner, Dr. Howitt, is looking to get that area developed and then at least set it up as townhomes for rent with the option down the road for sale if in fact that's the way his business plan goes. Windsor Ridge on 5 Mile Line and Atlantic Avenue, and that's the northeast corner of 5 Mile and Atlantic Avenue. 86 homes proposed in that area. It's right adjacent to our community garden. And so the question that comes up in and around that is, how come you didn't include that as part of your moratorium? It's kind of in the same general area, and why not fit that into the moratorium? This project is near the end of the course, and based on advice from our legal team, that if we stop that now for the next 6 to 12 months, it could be an impact from a lawsuit that we couldn't win. And so the balance that we always have to take a look at is how we're spending taxpayers' dollars. Certainly that project in culmination with other things that are going on in that area certainly has a broader impact on the general area, the schools, infrastructure, and things like that. There is an application in for urgent care. Yes, urgent care, about a quarter of a mile the way the crow flies from urgent care. Right across the street from the main entrance of Wegmans. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops. You know, what I'm hearing, and so you always tend to hear a lot of these things until you see it pan out, is that the group of people that are regulars to the current urgent care will be different from that group to the new urgent care. So the current urgent care owned, operated by Dr. H, and the new one by the U of R. So we'll see how that shapes up and develops. And then there's a possible Green Valley Pet Hotel on the old Camp Hakamo site. Town Board has had an opportunity to review some sketch plans. We've met with the property owner of that area. This is something that new to this area, but not new around the country. And for all of us pet lovers looking to take a vacation, but wanting to make sure that our pets are equally taken care of, this is a kind of an interesting concept. I know my lovely wife, when we go away, we would never board our two dogs. We always have someone come in and keep them in their surroundings and take care of them and make sure that everything is taken care of. This is kind of that, taking that to that next level overall. As we continue on with things that are going on, we recently completed our general code. So while Penfield leads in the county and the 19 towns across the county in many areas, this is an area that we really, over the years, had fallen short on. And so now our code is online. It's part of that general code concept. Anyone can go online and do research and word search on things. A lot of hard work went into that. A couple of folks in the room, Jim Costello, Amy Steckloff, and Mark Valentine from our engineering department, they were kind of the leads on that, and then all of our department heads to get that up to date. That took us a number of years to do that, but it's something good to have behind us, and makes it a lot more easy for realtors and engineers to gather information overall. Baker Commodities. Baker Commodities has been that project, that facility that over the years, I think dates back into the early 1900s, that does a lot of rendering and has created a number of problems for the neighborhood. And so right now DEC is in the process of renewing or updating their permit. We're going to be holding a public information meeting on Thursday, the 3rd of March, for anyone to give comments about the permit, about the operation and things like that. But it's been something that has been an ongoing issue, concern within the town over the years. Mixed use development, and I see a few folks here listening and interested in mixed use. We are currently at a point that our team is out, and so our mixed use, so let me ground that a little bit. We had two mixed use areas. One was along the 250 corridor and at Atlantic Avenue, and the other was the Manitou Lake. The Manitou Lake site has sold, and so that has been taken out of the picture. Our team has made the modifications to mixed use, and now we're moving forward looking to get those property owners in that area to sign a petition, and we're looking to get a public hearing on the mixed use scheduled over the next month or two before the town board, so we can continue to move that forward and then to see that area start to develop. Four Corners is always a hot topic, and I think as was reported through Jim's efforts, we have purchased that southeast corner, so that's the property behind Cha-Cha's and Guida's Pizza, and behind our friends at Grand V and Village Square in that area. And so what we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be going in and doing some upgrades to that, some milling out, some paving, improving the layout to make that a little bit more usable, a little bit more effective overall. The Masonic Lodge is up for sale. There is an individual that wants to buy that, turn it into an art studio, an art gallery, hold classes, and take over that operation and kind of make that whole corner more viable than it is today. We've got a new 27,000 square foot office building that we talked about last night, and so that's right on the corner of Liberty and 5 Mile Line Road. There's the Yellow House that is there currently vacant. That's the site of the former or the first library in the town of Penfield, that Yellow House. And the proposal is on that site to build a dentist's office in keeping it in character with that whole area. certainly to complement all the hard work that Mark's just recently put forth, and a lot of others in that area for the interconnectability, kind of keeping that village feel, attracting folks to that area, and being able to make your way through and partake in a lot of different things, whether it's a slice of pizza, getting a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, getting over to the Chinese restaurant, or just experiencing that whole Four Corners area. Nothnagel Edition, well underway. It was like just overnight. I went by and they hadn't started, and I went by, it seemed like just a couple of days later, and all the framing is up. So they're completing that addition there. Terry Williams, this is the site right adjacent to Itakade, and it's been a vacant piece of property. It's been a parking lot that has been shared by the businesses in that area. Terry came in to us last night and showed us a building that kind of resembles Incognito that he wants to build there. He owns and operates a vacuum cleaner business on Monroe Avenue. He's looking to shut that down, move to Penfield. He's a longtime Penfield resident in East Penfield, and so his building will have his operation, and then he will have 2 apartments in the building as well, and it, again, really complements that whole area. And then a catalog company at 1807, and that's the red barn in the behind 7-Eleven. And so I'm going to call on my friend, or at least get a nod from my friend. So it's a little deceiving when we say the catalog company, but they do something unique with some glass globes.
The old gasoline service station pump globes, he reproduces those, sells them across the country through a catalog.
So it's kind of a unique business that'll be operating in the Four Corner, and I guess you can customize to any way that you want, and they package them up and send them off. 2 items of reminder: don't forget about the 485B exemption. That's if you make any additions, modifications to your businesses, you can take advantage of some reduced cost, through the assessment and ultimately impact your taxes. And then no blinking signs. As my friend Jim Costello is always asking folks to flick the switch and not have the blinking signs. News from our engineering group. So we look outside today and we see all the snow, but in a couple of months, what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of tear everything up. So it's a combination of the state and the town and anybody else that wants to join in. So last year we benefited from Route 441 being repaved all the way from Route 96, East Avenue, all the way out to Dublin Road. And that really helped the potholes, and it saved, probably reduced some business from Duffy's and a few folks like that, but it really improved traversing through the town. What wasn't included as that part of that project was the concrete piece of that. So from Philbrook Park down to Linden Oaks, that's all concrete, and so it's a separate project. It's about a $5 million rehab project. So starting in middle of May and running to probably end of October, early November, going east and west is just going to be real ugly. Because it'll typically be 1 lane in and 1 lane out for periods of time as they do that. And again, that will last from May to about November 1. In addition to that, as we get out further east, they're going to pick up where they left off on Dublin Road and then take that all the way out to Salt Road. And then there are going to be 3 other components of that. So at Harris Road, they're going to shave that hill down several feet to help with the sight distance. Midway between Harris and Salt Road, they're going to extend the culvert that carries the Commission Ditch. And then when you get to Salt Road, there's going to be turn lanes, turn arrows, so that whole area will in fact, and of course, those are 2 separate and distinct projects. I know the state of New York is trying to sync those so that they minimize that disruption from there. And what the town will be doing is we're going to be looking to actually repave and mill and repave Penfield Road from Skyline Apartments down to Bill Gray's, down to Panorama Trail. So as you think about some alternate routes, I'll jump off here to avoid to avoid this down 441 and then jump on up here, we're going to make that a little bit more difficult for you as well. But something that really does need to be done as we go through. Sidewalks, we started this past fall. We started to put in the base and fill in a couple of areas to let things settle over the winter. And essentially we're going to pick up from the sidewalks at the Gymnastics Center and carry those up to Whalen Road. And then the next component of that is then from Whalen up to the Hidden Hollow so that we complete that stretch of sidewalks along 250 overall. The light at the Y was activated on Tuesday, the 9th, which was great to see. I'd mentioned to a couple of folks at the back table that I was coming back from lunch and happened to come down 250, and it was nice to see the flashing light. And typically the state leaves that on for a period of time, and anywhere from maybe 1 to 3 weeks, depending upon traffic and how much notice they want to give, and then it will go to a 3 or tricolor, green, yellow, and red, and that'll be turned on probably over the next several weeks. Long time coming. I know that when Senator Funke, and I think Senator Funke deserves a lot of credit, he was the one that actually pulled the money out from that, worked very closely, Wickham Farms, the Y, the town, for that, and I think that will be a real enhancement to that intersection once it's officially turned on. The sewers at White Village, the White Village neighborhood, Parkview, Woodhaven, in the area where my friend Paul Dwyer is, that's about 75% complete. We're looking to get that wrapped up by June of this year, and we have the last leg to connect in by Glendevere's and into the Interceptor sewers. But that was our last large subdivision in the town that did not have sewers. And then Willow Pond, the Willow Pond area, now back of Willow Pond, there is a very large pond that really is spanned between the town of Penfield and the town of Perrington. And DEC has been after us. They've classified that as a dam, and they've been after us to make some modifications. So we will be doing a pretty large job. We've been doing some things over the last couple of years. We'll complete that this year by the installation of a very large culvert pipe that will run through a neighborhood in Perrington and then out into the Midvale Golf Course, but all controlled so that we're not sending anything more downstream than what currently goes there today. So I won't bore you with a lot of numbers and a lot of budget details and things like that, but a couple of slides I just want to hit. One of the things that we've been working on as a board very hard is to try to stabilize as best we can our tax rate that we set each year when we prepare our budget. And so we worked real hard. If you take a look at this area here where this popped up, we had a number of items that hit in that time frame, which was a combination of the pool addition to the school. It was a partnership that the town and the school had. And we had a very large open space activity that took place where we purchased some land and we purchased some development rights. And we have, over time, some of that, I apologize, some of that debt has come off, and then the town was able to bring that back and again keep it fairly stable. This year for 2016, the board did have to increase the tax rate by 5 cents, just based on a lot of costs coming in, revenues, a significant drop in revenues overall. But again, the goal of the town board is to keep that rate steady and not have a lot of bouncing around up and down. Dennis and I spoke earlier. My bar was lowered a little bit for this conversation. He was listening to Janet Yellen on the way in, who was giving doom and gloom, and the stock market dropping 322 points. And he says, "I'm looking forward to your presentation." So it made this presentation a little easier, Dennis. Thank you for that. And then just a couple of highlights. Total town budget 18.9, and so that's our total operation of our town budget. So that's our general, our highway, and our library, and then all the special districts as well. And the town was able to maintain under the tax cap, which was a real key for residents, because what that meant is that if we stayed under the cap, residents were able to get a small check back from the state as a result of that. As I mentioned, revenue loss, that has been something that really has started to haunt us a little bit. When we were putting the 2016 budget together, we learned a number of things. We learned, number one, that with the new county executive coming in and wanting to not make promises she couldn't keep, the message back was don't budget anything for any county work. And typically, the town of Penfield would get something in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $500,000, depending upon the number of projects. So as you can imagine, that was a pretty significant hit to us. The other piece that we learned is that we have been the exclusive contractor for MCC Brighton campus for drainage and paving. Based on the work that our crews do, we were the ones over the last probably close to a dozen years. And because of all of their effort going to the downtown campus, they held all of their funding for the Brighton campus. So we lost access to that as well. So the good news is that fuel costs are down, and we've saved on salt up until today, and overtime has been significantly down. But that always ends up being a double-edged sword, because we get a check from the county. The way we break up our sales tax is that it comes in two components. A piece of it comes and goes directly to your tax bill. So if you take a look at your tax bill, you will see a minus for an amount of money directly related to sales tax. The other piece of that comes to the town in a check. And so when sales tax are down, that check is smaller. So as the price of fuel goes down, that will have a significant impact overall. So that's one of the things that we are looking at right now. Again, I think we were very conservative when we built our budget, but if things continue and the price of gas gets down to $1 like a lot of folks are projecting, that in fact could be another gap that we'll have to work on. But overall, I think that we have done a great job of just maintaining the right balance overall. So be a sponsor. So this is my opportunity to kind of pitch to you. You can be a sponsor to the town on a couple of different fronts. There is a calendar in the center of every table, something new that we've done this year. And so that's a way to have some of your important dates highlighted and to get your name out there. The other way is with our amphitheater. We have sponsors for that, and we always have a great turnout. We have a number of different events, musical events during the course of the year. It's kicked off by a nice food rodeo, typically in the May time frame, and a lot of great music from our local high school students. And then it ends on our Tasting the Blues event, and then we have 6 or 8 events in between. Jazz Tuesdays, Kids Fest Thursday, and we bring in a number of other groups. Gapman Joan typically is a big hit when he comes into town. As I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in serving on any type of committee, would like to get involved, love to have you. Would encourage anyone to, again, drop a note, see me afterwards, take my card, give me a call. Whatever the case is that we really rely on, and each year we have approximately 120 people that volunteer to be involved with different projects, committees, boards, and things like that. And that's what makes, I think, this community so great, is that we have so many people wanting to be involved, to stay involved, and to try to help Penfield take that next step overall. So would welcome resume, email, anything like that. And then again, I would just say, if you're looking for, I probably shouldn't mention this, but I will. I am not a big social media guy. And the thing that frustrates me the most about the social media aspect is anyone can say anything about anything without the opportunity to have to correct that or to have your voice in the room. And so as I saw this whole shadows, Shadow Pines and Shadow Lake start to happen, the social media went wild with a lot of facts and details, and that's why our board really wanted to get ahead of that and to make sure that we were giving the right information. And if we didn't have the answer to a question, then we would get that answer and provide that. So as part of that section I referred you to earlier, there is a FAQ. So if anyone has a question about something, we're listing what the question is and then what the answer is for that as well. Because again, it's important to get this right because we are going to have a lot of stomach acid as we go through as it is with all the misinformation. The key really is to make sure that we get it as right as we can. So I would just encourage you to follow whatever it is, project at the planning board, the town board, anything like that, to come to penfield.org and get the most up-to-date information. And so with that, I would be more than happy to take any questions, comments. I will say, by way of full disclosure, this is me. Compliments of our 7-year-old granddaughter who stopped in and spent a half hour with me on Monday. And while she finished her homework, she had to be busy doing something. So she started this. She was very specific to say that this is not done. I will do this the next time I come because I got some things I want to finish. I've got to date it and I've got to sign it. And I said, honey, that is going to be worth something at some time. My friend Phyllis Ely, who is our communications director, grabbed that yesterday and said, I've got a place for that. So that's where the place is. So questions, comments, anything that we can answer or help answer? Yeah, Catherine.
You mentioned about the new neighborhood going in, and it's always been a question in my mind. It's not unique to Penfield, and I don't mean to canvas, but
Sure.
it's a curiosity thing. When we build the new residential area, why is it that we don't have sidewalks in those new residential areas? Is that something, is that a state thing, is that a town thing, is that something the builder proposes or not? I'm curious about that. It would be wonderful to see that.
Sure. So the question is new developments with sidewalks and how come developments or subdivisions may not have sidewalks in them. Is that, did I hit that pretty? So if you take a look at some of the older subdivisions, typically you will not see, in most of them, you will not see sidewalks. Over the years, one of the things that the town has done is we have started to ask for sidewalks internally. And so we have a practice or a policy of sidewalks on both sides. Again, depending upon how big the subdivision is, depending upon the area, developer may request that they put them on one side or the other. So we've been starting to do that to get more out there, for that walkability, which is really key. And if you go to some of the neighborhoods that have them and you ask folks about them, they just absolutely love them. So that's one of the things that we've been also trying to do is that we also had a policy many years ago that we would put in sidewalks regardless of where they started and where they ended. And so you would see, you could go for a mile and not see a sidewalk, and then you would see a 100-foot stretch of sidewalk in front of somebody's property. And so one of the things that we are now doing is looking to connect those. There are still areas in the town where it's probably not the best to put in sidewalks. You go to East Penfield, and to have someone put in 100 feet or 200 feet of sidewalk, that's probably not the best use of that. So we can have that waived, and then they contribute to the sidewalk fund that we then are able to extend in other areas. So you're going to start to see over the next couple of years, we've got a couple of areas of starting to grow that a little bit more and then to connect more of that. So I think one of the last ones you may have seen is Panorama Trail. We picked up. Yes, sidewalks would be required in that area. Yep, absolutely. Other questions, comments? Yes?
How much of the concrete that they use for panoramic to
Linen oaks. So the question is the concrete decking Does that include the roads? The roads are actually concrete in that area. So from Linden Tech up to Philbrick Park, all of that is concrete. And while they've tried to patch it, putting asphalt in and other different materials, it just keeps popping out. So they will go through. So they're going to actually take out full sections and replace them. And then there's going to be some that is going to be rehabilitated. So there's going to be some combination thereof. But that whole stretch, in some way, shape, or form, will be touched, in a minor way or a major way. Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw a hand over here. Yes, sir.
The highway department and the road work scheduled between Dublin and Seoul, going down one lane, will that occur after rush hour traffic?
So this is what I'm going to say is that it's a state job, so the New York State DOT is coordinating it. However, we have very actively encouraged the state where they can to work after hours, like we did with 441 to repave to do that. And the benefit there is that yes, we always get someone that calls up and says, "You're working out front of my house. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't sleep." But what we're able to do is to do it a lot quicker and make the inconvenience a lot less, and it becomes a lot cheaper as well. So we have indicated where possible on both of these jobs, the concrete rehab as well as the work east of Dublin Road, anything they can do after hours could be a win-win for everybody. So that's the encouragement. What happens, we're going to learn together. That's part of their bid package as well, because a lot of contractors like that. They like that ability to be able to do that, to start about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then be out of there by 5:30, 6 o'clock, because they can get so much more done.
And that would be May of this year?
The concrete rehab will start in May. That project is going to fall within that May to November. So I would say that you could see them start as early as May till probably the July timeframe, but they'll be done by November 1. Yep, absolutely. Yes, sir.
I've heard a little buzz about the cidery going up Dublin.
Yes.
With that, a couple of things, more kind of rezoning. I'm not sure if that falls under current zoning, or would it have to be rezoned? Because, it's still technically, you're farming, and they will be producing their own products, so.
Yep. And I've got my friend in case I get too deep in the weeds. That is residential zoning. That does fall within agricultural operation. As we understand it in talking with Dr. Bob King, who is kind of the agricultural expert for the county, and our review of the state legislation, is that that falls within what is permitted for that area. That area is also complicated a little bit with the development rights that the town purchased a number of years ago as part of our open space. So there's some other criteria that's in there. But again, as we look at it and as we've reviewed with our attorneys, that we're saying that falls within that criteria. So did I miss anything, Mr. Costello? All right. So, Tom, do you rely on him from time to time as well? Me too. Yeah, me too. He's aces. All right. Other questions? Other comments? Yeah, Mike.
On the parking at Four Corners, the by-mile line road seems to be the ingress, egress. Will the driveways on Penfield Road be funneled to one ingress, egress, or will they remain all over the
Curb cuts will remain the same. After there will be a main focus to get legal
and then I know there was talk of connecting that lot with public lot to the south.
And we continue to work. What I tell our staff. So the question was with regards to parking and connecting of the parking. And one of the things that I've told the staff over the years is that a lot of times we would tend to wait and try to put all the pieces together. And sometimes that worked, and sometimes it was just a train wreck. And one of the things that I tell the staff on a regular basis is that you have to start making progress. You have to start eating the elephant one bite at a time, because if you do that, then things become a little bit more contagious. And so that's some of the things that we've been trying to work through is, acquisition of that property, maintain that property, look to connect those properties together, and then look to expand that on that corner. And again, similar to what has been done on the other corners as well. So, thank you, Mike. Yeah, Bill?
So, Tony, I have a question in regards to the Dolomite moratorium.
Yes, sir.
In listening to the concerns, it sounds like the objective is to figure out how to not make that turn into 250.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. And I guess my question is, given it's zoned residential, what avenues other than maybe property acquisition or development right acquisition is there any way to really prevent that?
So that's a great question, Bill. So a couple of thoughts. Number one, within our comprehensive plan, that area is identified as recreation. So the underlying zoning is residential, but our comprehensive plan has talked about recreation. So that's a component. The other thing is that because it is such a significant change, that gives us that opportunity to kind of take a step back and take a look at that. And depending upon how that ultimately shakes out, ideally, what I'll say is that if we could find a buyer to keep that as a golf course, that would be the ideal situation. And if we could develop a piece of it residential and a piece of it left as recreation or open space, that might be yet another thing to take a look at. I think the concern that our board has is that if that's all developed residential, the overall impact to the community is so great. So that's another component that we believe why we can put the moratorium in place and make that moratorium, follow more on the legal lines than not, and that is because of the significant change. Somebody can say, it's been, how come, past supervisors, administrations didn't rezone that to something else when we were doing the comprehensive plan? And I think it's simple. I think at the time, it's been like that for 32 years or 36 years, depending upon the golf course. And I think that assumption, and that's where you always get yourself in trouble, the assumption was it's been like that, it'll continue to stay like that. But that is certainly one of the things that we have spoken at the board level is that we can't just assume that. So we're standing here in this lovely in the center of this lovely golf course here, and so what happens if this were to go to homes? So I mean we really need to take a look, and as we're talking about not only the moratorium but talking about that next version of our comprehensive plan, I'm sure those items will be a lot more active by way of conversation than maybe they have been overall. All right. Thank you very much. I'll turn everything back over to Jen and Mike. Thank you. Thank you.